Hello, my name is Eugene. Today we're going to talk about a topic, strings. Same old strings. In the last video we talked about a different application of strings, different usage of strings. And today we're actually going to apply our knowledge that we learned in the last video. And we're going to create an app, our first app. Our first app will be very simple form. So, and that is our form. First name, last name, address, apartment, city, zip code, and then in the lower section we see a user information. That's a form. And we're going to apply and use many different strings. And today we're going to make an app. We're going to use framework SwiftUI. So let's go ahead and get started. Open your Xcode. Select Create New Xcode Project. Select App. So now you see a content view, and that is a struct. We see a new word, struct. Struct. What does it mean exactly? Struct, it's a blueprint, meaning what our view is supposed to do, how it's supposed to look like, kind of instructions, how it's supposed to work. In the future videos, we're going to talk about classes and structs a little bit more, and many different things related to classes and structs in the future video. And today it's just for our understanding that, and it's our blueprint, it's our instruction how our view is supposed to look like. So now you see a column view. What does it mean? That view has all the necessary tools that we need to actually create our view. That's what it means. After that, we see a variable named body. So body, inside of our body, we will have our view, all views that we're going to use. And it's variable. And variable, if you remember, it means that our body will be changing throughout our app as we build new views on top of each other, and as our view is growing, and our body will be changing as we're adding more and more views. Okay. So let's start with VStack. So what does it mean exactly? If you see that those views are stacked up on top of each other, when we need to stack views on top of each other, we use VStack. And in this video, we're not really going to use VStack. We're going to use a different view, form. Form, you've probably seen many different forms in many different apps. It's a very simple view, and it's very often used in many different applications. So form, remember, our form has first name, last name. So let's start with that, and let's talk about how to make that exactly. So if user would like to make a text field and enter text, we would have to utilize text field. If you type text field, you will see many different options to choose from. Let's choose simple view with title and text. Title. It's a string protocol. Like, what does it mean for us? That we have to use string there. First name. And now let's look at text. And in text, you notice word binding. What does it mean? Binding, it means that it will be connected to something, bind to something. And we would have to use a string variable to bind, to connect with our text field. So let me show you. So we can utilize first name with a string, with an empty string. In previous videos, at the beginning we see add state. Add state. What does it mean? That variable add state, that string, will be changing through our program, and our program will be listening to those changes. If you see add state, that means that variable will be changing. And if we're using binding, we have to use add state. So let's talk about private variable. What does it mean? Why it is exactly private? It means that it belongs to content view. Only to that view. In Swift, we have many different structs and classes. Many different structs and classes. And our struct and classes, they can actually look into each other and see what's going on and modify it. And we have to make it safe. We have to protect our view from those modifications, because if we want to make an add state variable, it has to be private. So if we want to modify something, it means only our view that holds that variable can modify that state. Not other states or not other objects can modify that. Only that view that holds that add state variable. We're going to talk about that more in the future video. So now we see something weird. $sign first name. And why do we use $sign? And SwiftUI, if we want to bind something, connect something to another variable, to something, we have to use $sign. That's just a quirk of SwiftUI in a programming language. It's just how it works. Okay, now we understand it's a text field, first name, and we have binding with a first name, with a string. So now we can see our text field. Similarly, last name, we have binding and connected to last name, $sign at. So I hope it's clear. So now let's create an address in a different section. Let's make a different section, a little bit separate from the first name and last name. So this is our section, address. If you notice, we have a header. A header can be anything, any view, whatever you want. We can utilize simple text. And here we use a text address, or we can use any other view that we like. Similarly, we're going to create text field with the address. With binding. And now let's create a text field for our apartment. And now let's create a text field for our city. And last, let's create a zip code. So now we have our form, first name, last name, address. We see the form, right? So, and now the last part of our tutorials show the user information. We're going to create a different section. Let me show you. We would like to show that section a little bit lower. And how would we do that? Remember, I said that header can be made of anything, or of any view. Any view. It's just a view. It can be text, and the size can be different. So, and today we're going to make a header like with a spacer that will space it out, and a text. See, as I explained, VStack, like why are we using VStack here? Because we're going to place a spacer on top, and underneath we're going to use text. So we're going to stack on each other, spacer and a text. This is why we have to use VStack. Alright, in the previous video we talked about how to use strings, right? And today we're going to apply knowledge how to actually combine different strings together. How create one string of many different strings and return that string, that combined string. So first, we can use a string like interpolation. It's called string interpolation. Let me show you. we see we can put variables from our view in our string. And that's our string interpolation, right? Another way to combine many different strings together, we can utilize plus. We can use plus sign. We can add strings together. See that we have a variable, but it looks a little bit different, right? It looks a little different. So it's called computed property. What does it mean? That variable combines previous variables and returns back a new string that depends on those previous variables, on the address, on the apartment, on the city, in the zip code. It combines all together, returns it back a new string, new combined string. Like we see, we can add strings together. See, we have a street address, then space, then apartment, then space, then city, then space. And we can utilize string interpolation or add strings together. We can utilize them both, whatever you want. I think string interpolation, it's a better use. Why? In Swift, in the program, if you're utilizing string interpolation, your program will run faster. Adding strings is okay, but if you have many strings and you add them together, it will take time for your program to run and calculate those operations. I advise to use string interpolation, and it's easier and simpler. So, and we're going to use full address as a string interpolation. There, full address, and that our app is ready to use. Let's test it out. You see, our app is automatically knows and changes the name for the user info. The string automatically populates because it's state variable. And that is our form ready for you to use. You can utilize that form in your app if you want. A form is created with SwiftUI. It's very easy and simple to use. Thank you so much for watching.